do a little blessing. And while we're going through the process with our guests, you help yourself to the food. We have a lot. Okay, so.
I'm going to go this direction. If you would participate with me, I want to start off with a participation chant, which is a mood chant, which is a participatory chant. And so there are, the part of the participation, there's 4 responses, which the first 2 are Hemu, the third one is Noah, and the fourth one is Noah Hu Noah. All the responses proceed by 2 claps. And part of the reason of that is that this chant allows us to take whatever little garbage we might have hanging around and just put it on the side, so this meeting today gets into focus, so we can all stay together as a team and utilize as much energy as we can from each other. Okay? And so some of you folks know this chant. So anyway, so your responses are like, for this Hemu, it starts with 2 claps. Hemu, say that. Hemu. The third one is Noah, Noah, and the fourth one is Noah Hu Noah. So we free ourselves and then we free the rest of the earth. Okay, so, and I'll go ahead and lead it. And I do this because in our participation, you'll see just how much we participate until we are in sync. And so we'll continue to run. Okay? So anyway, it goes, Hey Moya, Hey Mu. Hey mu na moi ino ino na moi moya na pu no no na ha me hey moya. Hey mu. Eli eli. No. Iai. No ho no. Hey moya. Hey mu. Hey mu na moi ino ino na moi moya na pu no no na ha me hey moya. Hey mu. Eli eli. No. Iai. No. Okay, so part of that participation is you guys gotta actually participate and say the word, because I'm gonna drop back. So anyway, so we start it again. Okay? Hey moya. Hey mu. Hey mu na moi ino ino na moi moya na pu no no na ha mea hey moya. Hey mu. Eli eli. No. Iai. No. Hey moya. And this is on purpose because I really want everybody to be in sync with each other. Yeah? So let's try this again. Hey moya. Hey mu. Hey mu na moi ino ino na moi moya na pu no no na ha mea. Hey moya. Hey mu. Eli eli. No. Iai. No. Hey moya. Hey mu na moi ino ino na moi moya na pu no no na mea. Hey moya. No. Eli eli. Yeah. No. So that didn't come out too well. That's okay. We'll leave it as that. I'm going to do a chant called, it's similar to what we normally do, it would be Eomai, but But this is called Ehoimai, and it calls from a little deeper past because way back in that deeper past are there the similarities of bloodlines. And really what we are grasping for is that information that was available to us in the past that seems to have drifted apart because our age is gone. So, Ehoimai Kaikimai Lunamai O na mea una no iau E iau Ehoimai Ehoimai Kaikimai Lunamai O na mea una no iau Ehoimai Kaikimai Lunamai O na mea una no iau O na poe Ehoimai Hello, my Kiakua. We certainly honor that you would be present with us today along with our Amakua Kupuna. We ask that you join in our table and help bring forth this energy that needs to come up to re-stimulate how we're going to do things in a much more coordinated way, a way that is a way that we can start making these links instead of all these divisions and figure out how this is going to move as one entity. However that entity describes itself as it's being made. So anyway, we have today, we have Ruben that has come all the way from the mainland, from San Antonio. I just want to welcome him here. Thank you very much for taking the time to come all the way over here and share your information with us. Mahalo.
Ruben met Ali years ago. Can you just tell a little bit about how you met Ruben?
Oh, yeah. I was invited to a conference that Ruben's organization, Southwest Workers Union in San Antonio. They were having a conference on base closures where the military shut down the bases, throw a lot of the toxic material, and dig out all the abandoned bases from Philippines to Panama to South Korea, even Japan, United States, Alaska. I had an opportunity at this conference to meet all these different organizations that were organized because of the military abandonments and dumping their rubbish and leaving out. And because I was part of Kaho'olawe at that time, they were doing the same, shutting down the island, and they had cleanup. So it was a conference where everybody would share their problems and why they organized. And a lot of them brought data to show what they're doing and how they're doing it. So it's a great education for me to see about the world and what America has done with their military bases in these countries as well as home, where they all got together and discussed the problems and the differences that we can all relate to, on how we can help one another. That's how we met. And of course, part of his organization, I met them in Vieques when we went down with the bombing of the island in Puerto Rico. So I met the other half of his organization. So I'd say it's been about 10, 15 years but I've been working with these guys when I go and they take care of me when I left. But I'm glad we kept up the relationship because their understanding and a bigger perspective of things, they clean the little island more educated and more aware on how to look at things. Because I think people kind of tunnel vision sometimes, and our impact is bigger than what's in the tunnel. And that was the exposure with Ruben and Southwest Workers Union in San Antonio, Texas. So that's our relationship. We first met each other way back with Ruben.
We're going to be going through this presentation that we made to introduce yourself and help yourself to some of the food. I know it might be a little distracting, but that's okay.
Grandma think that we sit down and talk.
Well, what about if you don't mind? Bali, of course, and I wanted to come back and reconnect. I think 4 directions, is something that we have definitely in common as far as our culture. Chica, Mexican, is also the 4 directions and how that connects us. Even across geography, but knowing that each space and place has an important role and function and creation of and holder of knowledge. And sometimes we lose that connection with our knowledge or the value of our knowledge. And so in the modern world, as we call it, that is sort of positioned against this commercial, sort of agenda that is not just about having products in the store, but it's really about having this whole sort of consumerism system, but disconnected from any kind of production or land. So one of the things that we begin to see is the disconnect with the land in many cases, and how that impacts our culture, because we're sort of land-based people from our experience. I come from the southern tip of Texas, which is border with Mexico now, but that border was imposed there in 1848 after a war and invasion of Mexico by the United States. It was the first expansionist war, after the 1800s. It's a response to the Haitian Revolution of Independence. So there was a lot of, including a lot of this empire building and colonialism going on that definitely now today we understand that modernization and that colonialism, came from the beginning of the arrival of the Europeans and what they brought in terms of their limited knowledge and their limited world trade or experience. But they were there to supplant the Pacific and the whole Indonesia, sort of what we call Vietnam, all of that area, Malaysia. And that was more the center of all the trade. It was also the center of a lot of the knowledge, as knowledge came from the east in terms of, this area and this whole region, and Africa, starting with China and then moving to African Arabs and all of the original people. Because if we note that as original peoples, we all knew by that time, by the arrival of the Europeans, we all already knew that the world was round. They were the only ones that didn't know that it was round. They still thought that it was a flat world. And so a lot of that new moving to the Atlantic, moving that center of world trade and knowledge and culture from the Pacific to the Atlantic started with, the occupation, the colonial occupation in the Caribbean, but also slavery. slavery and that racism came hand in hand from the very beginning of that colonial experience. That we can look back and see very clearly how, in many ways, we're the only ones that sometimes don't believe that that colonial system or systems are still operating on us. You know, the other side, the one that controls the agenda and the economy and the system, they know clearly that they're using those colonial tools of, to conquer, all of that. You're talking about elections, and we see it in our community. Sometimes we have two of our own folks competing for the same spot, only to allow the other side to win and reinforce this whole idea that we can't win. That you can't make that significant change. So, if we look back, however, and we were talking this morning about a lot of the issues that are happening here, and I was looking for, like Terry had kind of given me, an area to talk about, and I came I said, I better do a little bit of research. Let me look at what environmental racism looks like in Hawaii. So I pushed the buttons of the computer, and how you doing? So part of that, experience has been that, in our struggle of today, especially in the 60s, when I started in the struggle when I was young, was really that, you have to have this, the model was, you have to have this community organizing where you had sort of a leader that was leading the pack, sort of this tireless person that didn't eat, didn't sleep, just all consumed, in terms of leading the struggle. And that was good. That was courageous, but at the same time, it was sort of, consuming the person, and many times, running them down, in terms of energy, time, and focus, and possibility, capacity. So then we said, we're going to get more people involved. We're going to push the people up front. So we started sort of like, let's not have people be apathetic. We have that sort of concept back then. Let's move them up and have people leadership. And that was the next model, But we were pushing people into those positions and commissions or, in different areas or running for different offices and organizing in different spaces and all the community power that we could develop, but we were still the one leader sort of now pushing the people up front. So the first model was sort of pull the people, second model was sort of push the people, and then we saw that itself was not necessarily sometimes working for us because we would elect people to office only to have them then oppose the very community that elected them. And we couldn't keep them in terms of their commitment to the community. So that's always been a challenge, how to have, a government that really, is connected to the people, to the community, elected officials. And so, this new model, we want to call it a model because I'm not too much into the model thing, but the practice is really how do we create more of what we would call like a jet propulsion. If we put the oxygen in and the fuel, that is the ideas and the discussion, the analysis, and the collective synthesis of what is, what we're defining, then what happens is when we do it together, the whole room moves forward, the whole jet moves forward, without anybody having pushed it. That is, now it belongs to all of us. And yes, we need and we have leadership from the ground up, and that's important. But we also have to have the circular sort of connection that really not only brings us together, but also allows new people to come in and to sort of kind of share the knowledge. And so one of the challenges that we have in the organizing in the southwest of the United States, in the south of the United States, and the border region, is also that colonial sort of systems of oppression that keep us in our place. And we also develop even people in our community that act sort of as colonial police to keep us in our place. You know, so if we're doing too many changes, somehow you start getting undermined in order to neutralize it. Say, well, you know, I would really like, yeah, Ruben, whatever, but you know, and they bring out something like, oh, but it's hard to work with Ruben or something. Some kind of like throw a wrench into the process. So then it becomes like personally driven when it's not. It's about where are we in our collective responsibility and sort of convergence. And so one of the challenges to bringing that convergence together is how do we come together in a space that is both open, that is, it brings everybody's knowledge to the center of the table, not just if I come and present and I'm sort of an authority. That's not the model or the method that we want to follow, but we want to dismantle some of that knowledge that is really colonial in its sort of framework and the way that it's broken down. For example, racism. We all maybe have faced racism in different ways, you know? But collectively we share how racism, how we came to know it and how we came to be impacted by it. We would get a collective picture of what that and how that operates, or how that operated within our sort of generation when we were formed and informed. So the question of how do we integrate, how do we create that convergence is also intergenerational because and gender, because how do we bring all the voices to the table? And how do we share the experience that some of the veteran organizers and movement people have? And let's be real, it's 20th century knowledge because that's when we really got formed and informed. And then there's the new generations that are more like 21st century sort of generation of knowledge. But how do we bridge both? And how do we share the knowledge that we brought up and what we created? Because sometimes we created new knowledge. We created new community power. But sometimes we don't mark that, we don't benchmark that to the depth of the impact that it had. And we move on sort of like from one issue to the other. But we've had a very important and significant impact in those struggles. But if we lose that in the continuity, and the new folks got to invent everything new, then we're in trouble. We have a challenge there, how to bridge that reality together. So one of the things that we've been doing is after we organized the sort of social forum process in the United States, we didn't just focus on the event of the social forum and what was discussed in it. We wanted action. However, the social forum was only as a space for convergence, dialogue, and sharing. And so we had to create a new space for the action part to happen. Because we had gone there, yes, to deliberate and discuss and share, but also to come to agreement about action for change. And so we created the People's Movement Assembly as a gathering of the people that went to the forum and met separately to say what is our action plan agenda. And to share that so that we would begin to have a better understanding of the movement at this particular juncture, what different frontline struggles were taking place, rather than my particular analysis or somebody's particular political line or affiliation, but rather the collective sum total of our understanding and the sum total of our agreement in terms of what this man Walter Rodney calls the grounding with our brothers and sisters. The grounding. What brings us together? Why? And I'm not talking about when we're up against the corner like what you were talking to me about, you know, the new sort of alliances, but also keeping a pulse on those changes, but also that continuity. So how do we do both? You know, is really the part of the challenge. And the assembly is really a way of, you know, sort of sharing how did we all get here and why. There was a purpose that I came. And we were talking about the sort of spiritual sort of connection of why at this particular moment, 20 years later, we're having, you know, like I'm visiting. And what pulled me at this particular time and why I responded. You know, not to be sort of metaphysical, but really thinking that there's more importance and meaning than just a simple visit or, you know, oh, you're going to Hawaii, great. Well, that's cool, but I'm really more about the people than the tourism. So, you know, that's what brings us together, that colonial sort of reality that happens that Bali was talking about San Antonio, where we have 6 military bases from the Spanish, 300 years of Spanish domination. And they call them the Spanish missions. But they were both missions and military. There was no difference. You know? But we also have 8 U.S. military bases today. So what does that tell us about the role of that they prescribed for San Antonio as a military colonial colony? And so our economy and our cultural development as people is related to that military power structure, colonialism, regulations, you know, laws, political parties, and who gets to be recognized as the leaders of our communities when it's not our leaders. You know? So when they describe the Alamo to us, the white, you know, real pro racist kind of line is that the Alamo was freedom. It was freedom for Texas. But they don't say freedom to have slaves. It was establishing the slave republic of Texas. And it was the first step to going and invading Mexico. It was all sort of, you first become a slave republic, independent. You request to be annexed to the United States, and then boom, you become a vote for pro-slave Southern, so that when the vote came up in Congress, they would avoid the Civil War by winning the pro-slave vote. And that didn't happen. And so the whole sort of house of cards fell down. You know. In the meantime, my family's living on both sides of the border of the Rio Grande River, that in 1848, after this invasion of the slave republic of Texas, becomes the border. So now half of my family is in Mexico, and the other half in the U.S. And some people tell us, well, aren't you glad that you ended up in the U.S.? I said, no, because the folks on the Mexico side still have their land. We don't. They have tractors, they produce, you know, food, they live well. We, on the other hand, have to be migrant farm workers We have to travel all over the place out of the year to make a living. And we get the lowest wages and the worst conditions possible. How can you compare both realities, even if you want to? So that becomes sort of our beginning of how we got here and our roots. That becomes the first step to decolonizing our thinking, decolonizing some of the methodology that have been used to lead the movement, and breaking down some of those barriers, some of those walls that have been created by saying, no, you're economic justice, you're labor unions, I'm environmental justice over here. But we forget the environmental racism is the core of environmental justice. It's not just environmental justice like, I'm going to go meet with the EPA and work out some deal when they're representing the other side. So they're not our friends. And some people say, oh yeah, they're our friends. Well, they may be allies at some point, but that's different. So one of the things that we've noticed in the movement, this decolonizing process, is that we know a lot about what we're against, but we don't build with the same faith that structure or infrastructure to build the new, the alternative, the anti to the system. So if we just attack the system, then we're still part of that, apparatus just by being the opposition. We don't go beyond the borders of being the opposition. So where do we begin to break down racism, gender divisions, and class, and, race and all those things in order to understand that one thing out of this assembly process, where we all come together around all of the different struggles, is that is one simple thing. We're stronger together than we are separate. We're stronger together than we're separate. So sometimes, if we only work our side of the issue, is really good and very good purpose and dedication, but we may be undermining the broader movement sometimes by the different sort of actions. So for us in the United States, one of the important things is that if we're going to be about decolonizing in the U.S., we've got to go back 519 years and look at indigenous sovereignty. How did the original people live for 50,000 years of history and culture and sustainability? And that's considered like not knowledge. It's considered sort of savage or barbarian or certainly not civilized. So that's the beginning of our problem. We're already uncivilized. So we suffered 300 of years of Spanish colonialism. Then in 1821 we became free up until 1836 when Texas became a slave republic. So that was 15 years of, let's call it freedom, and then the U.S. took over and the slave republic of Texas for the last 172 years. So 300, 15, and 172. What do you think that does to our brain, to our sense of who we are and our rootedness of our culture and how we regenerate that culture? How do we begin to not just do the ceremony, the nostalgia, the mystic of the indigenous ways, but it has to be something more than just, the tourist sort of thing that they put in us, because tourism in San Antonio is the big industry next to military. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Is that similar? And then environmental racism and racism practices on us, then they say, why do you have a problem about these things? Why do you always have to be complaining and criticizing and you don't, because you don't assimilate, that's why you don't advance, you're not making good decisions. Maybe you're drinking too many beers or, they bring it down to that level. So, if I'm a young man and I'm going to the store and I get attacked at the store about something, they think you're stealing. And then I go to the mall and they follow you or Then I get stopped by the police and the searching car. And then I go in. Pretty soon all of this mini assault on your personal sovereignty begins to weigh you down. It begins to make you feel like you must have a problem. You have a generation. You know? And so they turn it all around, and all of a sudden, we ourselves, sometimes our own folks say, look, Ruben, I know that you're very dedicated, whatever, but you know you're not going to change it. That's the colonial police telling you, don't change things, stay in line, because staying in line is very important in a colonial sort of arrangement. You know? And so how do we then personify progress in a colonial system? Well, you know, we have 3 seats in the legislature, now we have 10, but nothing has changed necessarily, maybe. But you do have a space, but how are you using it? What is the agenda that you're confronting the powers that be? Whether it be, you know, in all the arenas, how do we bring that together in this circle is quite important. Because then it brings another question. If we have this synthesis of what is the problem in Hawaii, what is the problem? And we can identify all the problems. And then we go another round and we say, what are the solutions? And then we collectively say, what is our plan of action? And what are we willing to do? That really brings it down to, what are we going to do? You know, rather than just being against something, then what are we building? And how is that going to sustain the movement? And then how do we then hold power in that new space? If it's not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Green Party, or any other party, then what holds that space, that power? How do we not lose it like water going through our fingers sometimes when we've got the moment, we don't know, we don't have the convergence to make that hit. And the moment that we have the power and we look away, that's when we give the hit. They are ready to give the hit. You know, and we're taking, especially now, a lot of different sort of like, let's call it attacks from all sides in this new sort of globalized plan that the system. So I'm saying this because, you know, when we went to Seattle in 1999 to fight the World Trade Organization and we shut it down, a lot of people kind of said, well, you're not global justice, you know, like you're environmental justice. What are you doing here? I said, well, we begin to understand that we're the human face to globalization. We're the human face to NAFTA and the World Trade Organization. It's not an academic understanding of the economics that you change every other week anyway. So it depends who did the study, who paid for it, and what results they wanted. So how is academia part of that colonial apparatus and system that if we don't graduate from school and go to college and do that, then we don't think that we progress. So, you know, we're already instilling failure in our younger folks because they might have not chosen to go to university. And what about our knowledge, the one we hold in our community, in our ancestral knowledge? And then one of the key questions in the South with black communities is what is the sum total of that historical trauma and fear that sometimes paralyzes and many times paralyzes our community. When they're in the doorway, in the threshold of doing something, of making a huge impact, of taking power, we have a way of stepping back because we don't know what's on the other side. What's on the other side is, what about like your business, co-op businesses that uphold our struggle in our community? But what about that are also culturally centered and artistically? The brother was telling me about the art, you know, connection. See, art is about liberation and resistance, but not just resistance. Sometimes we only think that we're the victims and we resist and that's our role forever. So we were in this conference, and Dr. Gil Christopher from the Kellogg Foundation was talking about racial healing in the U.S. and you gotta begin to decolonize. Where's the native indigenous people on the table? You don't have nobody. So that's the first step is you need to bring all this other community that's not at the table. See, that's the first challenge. And so many times we are taken into tables where it's already set up to accept those things that are missing. So who's missing at the table? You're trying to make me look like the one leader, and that's a setup. Like you're telling me, you know, like you need to bring all this community in. We're all here representing this one. But then how do we hold that power? So we're calling it in the Southern Movement Assembly, and we've had 4 assemblies in the South, 14 state region in the South, and we've had 4 gatherings, and we're moving to the 5th gathering in September of this year. We certainly want to invite 1 or 2 of the folks here to represent, Hawaii in this international sort of conventional state. But the Southern Movement Assembly brings in about 100 organizations, about 400 people, and we have a movement council that sits at the end of the whole 2-day, event or gathering and summarizes what we came to agreement. It's called the Movement Council, and that's really the center of power. And then the Governing Council kind of holds it in between the gathering, in between the center. So we're calling something the Southern People's Initiative. How do we initiate a whole wave of change, given the wave of repression and violence that is happening right now? And how do we bring in the youth into that as part of this bridging of the knowledge? So the challenge is, bringing this 21st century knowledge of how we are today analyzing not only Hawaii, but Puerto Rico. How does that same colonialism work in Detroit, where they're shutting down the water for people, but black community, because it's 95% black? Why, in Jacksonville, Florida, you have the killing of Trayvon Martin, but, the freedom for Zimmerman, the killer, Zimmerman, and the history of that. That those black townships that had been established after the Civil War during Reconstruction and were about real community black power were totally assimilated into the white township, which was Sanford. And they even changed all the street names. So when they tore down all the public housing, a lot of people had to look for Section 8. It was gated communities, white gated communities, and the Zimmermans were the vigilantes already keeping, let's keep the blacks out. Let's not have them in the same swimming pool. Take the water out if they're going to go to the swimming pool. Give them tickets for having too loud music, or even those little tricycles that the kids ride around the street with, the pedal ones, don't have them there. Side the family. So it's a whole building process of this structuralized racism that ended up in that killing. But we missed the point because we don't say that. In Ferguson, the killing in Ferguson, Michael Brown, Ferguson was a suburb white community up until 12 years ago. So when all the blacks moved in, the police department was like, stop them, search them, give them tickets. Now it's come out, but it hadn't come out. So I think that one of the things that Paliwa and I were talking this morning that really brings it is that a lot of the issues, hit us in the face and we become familiar with the issue, but we don't do the structural breakdown. Behind that, who's got the power? Who's moving what? What are the contradictions? You were saying, because they don't all agree in their rule of power, but we don't put the pressure on those weaknesses. don't have sometimes a lay of the land. So that means we're kind of driving, but we're driving without a map. Well, turn here, no, go this way. You know, like we need to get the lay of the land. And that takes collective power. Collective power. That is not one person's analysis, but the whole collective. What do we say it is? That is the like, for example, how in the South do you get the old Confederacy, slavery, the whole thing? How do you get the slave Confederacy to marry with the corporate America world of 1980 when they moved to the South on what they used to call the Sun Belt? No? So you have a marrying of both, where now corporate power is also the old Jim Crow racist structures. So the DAs, the sheriffs, the, supermajority in the legislatures, to pass the most repressive type of laws. So you have a lot of blacks in jail, in prison. But in the South, even walking on the wrong side of the street got you to jail. Okay, because they used to call it moral turpitude. You're violating the moral laws, you're supposed to stay on your side. You could only walk on the other side on Sunday, or when you were going to work. All these rules that were about the black code. So we don't know that. We think that that sometimes the blacks are inventing all this, and that they just like playing that side of it. But in reality, when we also look at the South, we also see that they're trying to, all of a sudden in 10 years, 10 million Latino migrants all of a sudden appear. How did they get there? Who brought them there? To replace the black labor with this new migrant labor that was undocumented, and they know that they could exploit totally in order to globalize the South. So now they're saying, no, you guys, you Latino migrants, even though you're undocumented and we're deporting you en masse, you're white. Now you're trying to make us all white Hispanics. Divide from the blacks. So you get Obama to run for office, an example of divide and conquer, by the powers that be, and Obama gets 96% of the black vote, and a big majority of the Latino vote as well. But then he deports, or his administration deports 2 million Mexican Latino migrants. I mean, that is about structurally dividing as much as you can the forces that could come together in a global South sort of framework and change the whole face of the United States. But that's how much power we have to change that, and that's how much fear they have of us executing our power. But they're not the ones that stop us, it's us. It's us, that hold sometimes our own back. So for example, I'll give us, like we have Chicano studies at the university. And all these people went and got degrees. And they're supposed to know a lot about our history. But how many museums do we have? How many cultural centers do we have that really are rooted in our community? Didn't it end up like the other way? Like they got more assimilated to the system than coming back. So we might have had 30% come back and lost 7% that became professionals, urbanized, and they lived that life. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying how that this articulates our base and building our base in a broader kind of way. So how do we hold that? And I'm going to stop there because I was going to start talking more about environmental, racism, but I think you know that more than I do. About what happens in Hawaii with the military, with the geothermal, with the mega stores, with all the development and how the permits get agreed to very quickly on their side, but over here, it takes forever. That's sort of the dynamics of that. What we're trying to do at the University Sin Fronteras, which is the university that I represent, is really a university that is about education without walls, without borders. But that has to start with us regenerating our own knowledge, the knowledge that we came from that is greater than the Western knowledge. I don't care how you lay it out, you know. And so the failures of this new modernized system and industry and contamination is only proving itself out every time how it's not working, how it is not sustainable, and yet how it destroys our community in terms of imprisonment. We have, you know, hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of Hawaiians that are in prison in Texas. I mean, what is happening that they're doing in Texas? So I'm just saying how we need to act together. You know, we need to globalize the struggle just as they globalize the capitalism. They're doing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a growth out of the North American Free Trade Agreement. What it produced in Mexico, let me give you an example about how it is the race to the bottom, is that the first framework of NAFTA was the assembly plant that we call the maquiladora. The maquiladora assembles things and the parts come from all over the world and then they're shipped into the US or all over without tax. So all of this maquiladora has brought hundreds of thousands of workers to the border with the US-Mexico border. All of this television and all kinds of companies, automotive, you know, toys, everything. And all these people moved to the border where there was no infrastructure for schools, capacity for childcare, streets, water, drainage. Some people would serve the whole community of what you call squatters with one faucet for 5,000 people, you know, and electricity hung in all the houses, so-called illegally, you know. And right across the street was the maquiladora with air conditioning or with all kinds of robotics and all kinds of internet and electricity and the whole thing. But right across the workers didn't have $3 a day. So, you know, the point about that is what happened to those kids that those families had. They were latchkey kids. They were nobody taking care of them. What they would produce a whole army of assassins working for the narco cartels. 24,000 people killed in Mexico in this one last year of the new administration. 24,000 people, can you imagine? I mean, in Juarez alone, across El Paso, Texas, you know, more than 1,000 women that have been killed and thrown in the desert. Their bodies thrown in the desert. And what do we result from them? A border wall that's a steel wall as high as this room, and it extends for 2,500 miles from one side of from the Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. And then they have the National Guard patrolling. They've got the Army that does patrol, secret patrol. They've got Homeland Security. We have the Border Patrol. We have the state police. We have the sheriff police. We have the local police, and all kinds of police. I mean, we got so much police that in one run from my sister's house to my mom's house, which is 30 miles, I will cross 40 state patrol cars. Not counting the rest, just state patrol cars. So it's become a very militarized zone. That's called progress. That is a result of NAFTA. That is a result of, 500 people die crossing the Rio Grande River every year. So how many years since NAFTA? Let's say 20-something years. And we have about, I would say, at least 1,500 people die crossing the border every year. And NAFTA has produced 24 millionaires or billionaires. And we have 40,000 people dead to show for it. So this is two different sort of sides of the world that we're living in, and how do we then challenge that, which it looks like impossible? And how do we break it down to begin to, even in our own communities, how do we hold that power? How do we hold the organization? How do we hold, that other side, the powers of the state accountable to us? How do we create this new initiative called the Southern People's Initiative so that, if in the civil rights movement, Thurgood Marshall and some of his crew decided as lawyers that they were going to take down Jim Crow segregation laws, apartheid, racial apartheid laws that existed. 50 years later, they did that. That was an imagination of an initiative to break down the system of oppression, and they did it. So what is our imagination, especially with young folks, about what we're going to do and take down in this generation, in our lifetime? So how do we break down racism in our lifetime? How do we break down, this economic sort of control on us, especially here in Hawaii or the island colonies where, U.S. economy controls everything, even how it's shipped here, who works in it, and all of that. So, we begin to learn a lot, and then we begin to break it down in a way that is simple but very profound, that we begin to decolonize, but how do we build? So we're trying to build more of this local power, local, instead of a precinct or a county, what we call it, our thing, and make it more round, more circular. So we're always circulating the knowledge, we're always circulating the synthesis and the analysis of what is a political situational moment today that is not the same as 20 years ago, not the same as 10 years ago. So we need to keep up with it, otherwise that's where the system gets a step ahead of it. They don't really have the power to defeat us completely, but they get ahead of us in those moments of hiatus. We look this way and boom, they hit us over here. They give us, certain immigration legalization in the U.S., but then they put sanctions on Venezuela, for example. Or they give something over here with Cuba, and then they take something over here from Hawaii. That's how we've seen it. So how does the colonialism work in Detroit, in San Juan, Puerto Rico? How does it work in Atlanta? How does it work in Jacksonville, Florida, San Antonio, or in San Juan, Puerto Rico, or in Hawaii? And how do we compare it so that we begin to get a very clear understanding and face of that colonial power and the powers that be by first name and last name? And by first name and last name, we need to know who's working the system and what we have. And it has nothing to do with legality, it has everything to do with, their, what we call it, conspiracy. They conspire together. So we need to conspire together and not fight about, well, I think we should vote. Well, no, I think we should do like militant, violent demonstration. Well, it might be neither or, but let's collectively come out with many attacks, tactics. Not just one, but on one focused goal. What is their goal? And then everybody can play it out. Some people are going to play it legislative. Some people are going to play it legal. Some people are going to play it in the community, in the schools, in the daycare. We need to, any space that we don't fill up, they take. So, sometimes we give them a Okay, good. And she said, no, we're leading now. And 75,000 people marched on the bridge, and it became a liberation group. It became the people talking not about what happened 50 years ago. That was in their psyche, but it was about an agenda about what's happening today. What issues they're fighting and that they need to win today. That's what the march was symbolic about. There was no police, nobody leading the march, nobody controlling the march, and the march marched perfectly. No problems, no nothing, but with good feeling about the power of movement. Movement power. You could feel it, you know. Unfortunately, sometimes there's an event like that, we get into the activist mode, and we're feeling really good, but we shouldn't be passing out like this newsletter that I have. We shouldn't be passing it out all over the place. 75,000 people, when do you get them all together in one space? But sometimes that meant that we did not believe that that would take place, and if it took place, we weren't ready to act it out. So you miss a historical moment, and we can't, allow ourselves to do that. So anyway, I'll stop there. I get passionate. We all do. But that's how I got here. My family was a migrant farm worker. We worked half a year. We only went to school half a year. Migrants were segregated because you couldn't participate in nothing, because you weren't there the whole school year. Then we worked sort of as an invisible community wherever we went. Nobody knew you were in a labor camp. And those labor camps were the same camps that they held the Japanese during World War II, the internal camp. Now they were labor camps. And I went to school only because my parents sort of said, you have to go and get an education because working in the fields is no fun. So all of us got an education, but it was about putting it back to the service of the community, of our people. And so I've tried to do that as best I can, in the sense of, we all need to make a livelihood, but I can make a livelihood and work in the movement, on a full-time basis. And I love it. It's not it's not like hard labor. It's really, something of love and passion. So I think we all bring that into the fold. My family and everything is part of it. It's not like we're organizing outside of the family. We're centered in that. So, 47 years later, I'm still in the movement, and that's good, But it's more like about how to bridge that generational gap and share that knowledge. And so that's what I'm more dedicated to with the University of Fronteras, and allow Southwest workers union to have new leadership and have new people go through it and keep that momentum going,
How many universities have you organized? How came out with that title of Universities Without Walls and Borders?
Well, when I started in the movement, one of the first things we had what we called the Self-Determination Conference in 1969, and that's what we came up with. We got to build our own systems. And so we started Liberation School then. And then I went through all the different phases of organizing, and then came back to full circle to Liberation Education now with the University Sin Fronteras. So at one time we had a consortium of 22 liberation schools. And so when we tell the story, if the people that have been enslaved in the South could establish about 100 universities and they had never seen one or stepped in one, why can't the movement have more of what we call intentional political education and not just learn through the ropes? So we need more analysis, we need more deeper understanding of what we're creating, what kind of society that's all-inclusive. How does that work? That's how I got here, my life roadmap. And I live in San Antonio because it's a bigger city and it's majority Mexicano. That doesn't mean that we're in power. There's 25 white men that control San Antonio. It's military, basically. Now tourism has overtaken the thing, but still. So happy to be here. If we want to go around, momentarily say how we got here. How did you get here? How can we share that so that I can know more about it? Can we do that?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll start with Brown. Good to see you.
Yeah, and we have a common friend in Peggy Saifa.
Yep.
And I was, in 1992, I got the Bannerman Fellowship, public to help with Peggy. I met her in Sacramento when she was working in Japanese town. Yeah, so but I'm the church of Hanahopo Kelly, who's Connie's president now.
Yeah.
And I spent 20 years in Asia as a missionary organizing Asia, Thailand, and the Koreans in Japan. And came back in '88 and realized I'm with the church, but so I got one foot in the Hawaiian church. I'm still pastor of a small Hawaiian church. And I started getting involved with the houseless community on the beaches. Yeah, so then I got to know Polly in '88 when I left Japan. I met him in Oakland, and so got involved in a Philly defense meeting and got arrested with a big group in the Then I visited San Antonio and met you with Fuerza Unida movement. I had gone on a hunger strike in Japan for 25 days. So when I came back, I thought, I heard they were going on a hunger strike in front of San Francisco, in front of Levi Strauss. I said, no, I went on 25 days. I enjoyed that. So I went cold turkey. I went next day cold turkey. To try and join up with them because they were going to go 25 days. And I said, I think I could do it. But then I began to get itch on my body. I went cold turkey with only water and Hawaiian salt. And then this itch got worse and worse and worse. So Kikuni Blaisdell had to get me a salve to control my itch. So I went to a skin doctor, and the doctor said, you get scurvy. We never see scurvy in America. Can I take a picture of your scurvy? So I had to write the permission so they could take a picture of my scurvy. Yeah? So when I went to hunger strike, I stopped taking the vitamin C pills, and so no vitamin C. So the scurvy is what the sailors got a long time ago. I said, can't do it. It's making me not take it lightly. Yeah? I'm gonna be like third world people. Yeah? Suffer the scurvy. So anyway, it was a good experience over here. So when I heard Polly had been to Vieques with Ruben, and we had been to Vieques a number of times, so it was exciting to know that you sent one of your friends over here. Got the Bannerman, I think.
We all do.
Yeah. So good to see you again.
Good to see you too. We can go around.
Jeannie.
To share, you can pass it.
Jeannie's the one who wore the Fuerza Unida shirt on our farm. The Fuerza Unida was a factory of Levi Strauss. They were sewing the overalls in San Antonio. And they closed down the factory and moved over to Costa Rica. Yeah? And so all these Chicano women were all without jobs. So with the help of Ruben, they formed a trade union, called Fuerza Unida. And the headquarters of Levi Strauss was in San Francisco. So they went all the way to San Francisco and went on a hunger strike there. That's when I heard about it and joined them there. So I flew into San Antonio to meet them one time later on. And so I met Ruben there, he came and visited them. And they just started a bingo place to make money, right? So I went over there to see, like, help with the bingo and didn't win anything. But and we contributed to the first arena, so this is the t-shirt that they sent over, yeah.
They
Real
just celebrated
tough,
25 years.
yeah.
They just celebrated the 25th anniversary
Is that right?
in January. Yeah, they're still very active. And they have their own co-op business called Threads of Justice. So they make all kinds of clothing. And you can go online and actually order stuff and then make it, tailor-make it.
I'm Jim Albertini. I'm a long-time anti-war activist from Vietnam days. Spent about 2 years in prison for nonviolent resistance against the military. And worked closely with Polly in the geothermal struggles. In fact, next week, the 25th, marks the 25-year anniversary of one of the largest civil disobedience actions in Hawaii's history up in the forest to stop the geothermal there. And then I'm secretary of Ohana Hopa Kelly, so Ron and I and Polly are working very closely on prison issues as well. And we just did some forums and demonstration on TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, this last week. They're meeting in Sequel over the corner. So try to cover a lot of bases here, but we do need to look at that bigger picture and figure out how we do solidarity and build our strength. So thanks for being here. You're helping to stimulate some good thought here.
I hope so.
Well, hi, I'm Hanalei Ferguson. I'm originally from Waimea, but I live here in Curtistown. This is the cultural practitioner of the Hawaiian religion.
I'm Donald Wessels. Been with Occupy since the beginning. I've been part of the activist community for years here. I like what's happening here. I support it.
Aloha, everybody. I'm Carrie Marks. I've lived here almost 15 years and have been an activist pretty much since 12 or 14 or so. Before I moved here, I was a voting member of the Democratic Central Committee. I was very involved with the Democrats back in Iowa, and we thought we were pretty bullshit because we were the first caucus state, so we pretty much picked who the president was going to be, all this and that. And it was actually that experience because I was at a conference room table like this many times where we threw out ideas and decided what the national stage politics was going to be for that year. And I remember hashing out what was going to be, prisons or education or cops or whatever, and cops won. And sure enough, that year was the year Clinton put up his 100,000 new cops. And I know that we did that. We guided that conversation. So I learned at a very young age that a small group of people can make a big splash if you do it right. So then I moved here and tried to hook up with Democrats, but we had to run around for a long time and never could hook up with them. So I didn't do anything for a long time. I took about 10 years off for the first time in my life that I didn't do anything. And then I started to see things happening in the country and here that were very foreign to me, the corporatism and all of that. And that the whole power structure had shifted from a people power movement. Because it used to be, if you could get 10,000 people together to march on something, you win. That was all there was to it. And now it had gotten to a point where it didn't seem to matter how much people power was behind it, that the money power that was pushing against us was always winning. So that was my reawakening. It was about 4 years ago. Actually it was the Wisconsin Scott Walker governor situation that re-woke me up. So I was fully awake when the Occupy movement started. But that's where I put a lot of my energies lately, and I like that movement because
It's not specifically focused on one thing. We're kind of into everything, so we promote home rule, we promote anti-corporatism and people power and all those kinds of things. And I think a lot of the times we're the ones that see the connections between the different groups or issues that people that are really entrenched in their issue don't see. So that's kind of been my role, I think, in the community, is to oversee everything and help where I can. And I really liked what you said about everybody coming together with their different skills. I'm not a cultural practitioner and I can't even be led through the words very good. Well, that's screwing it up. That's never going to be my forte. But I'm really good at internet stuff. I'm really good at video, those kinds of things. So I think it's important that we all celebrate each other for our different skills and talents and figure out how that fits in, to our thing. So that's what I'm interested in learning about. And any advice you have to us on how to reach the younger generation, I'm glad you're here. Look around the table. We all got gray hair, but one. And that's a serious challenge for us, is how to reach out and retain young people. It's one thing to get them to come to your meeting, right, or show up at your march, but to show up the second time, that is key. And I don't know how to do that. So,
Good question.
thank you.
We're asking how we got here. So what brought you to the struggle?
My name is Rebecca Fletcher. I'm here back to the next week. I grew up on Maui and then went to the mainland when I was graduating from high school and been there for over 40 years. So I came home, I had a shock on seeing everything I love. So that's all.
I'm here, blessed to have met a lot of these mentors today. Part of the movement is the next generation advance. On the leadership. My movement is on education because of the years of public education and that system continues with the fusion for every generation. Currently also a student at the University of Oklahoma in college. There's where I feel what they should be. Because if universities produce over 300 graduates each year, these graduates are clueless in these issues and these things. The goals of that colonized system is to have them kind of work all the jobs, and these are the same people who are going to have to fight against the next generation. So I do support the transitional process. Is it time for that indigenous college, college of all that place, that indigenous? I believe it's definitely that time. We've done it in our UE or our high schools. We moved to charter schools, but we found that we still don't have the proper support for our charter schools. We're asking for it, and it has happened. They are the movement away from the norm. We know that the DOE system has taken that, and we know that corruption is within the population. So it's a lot of my movement and this that I do is to make sure those things still exist. Because it's there, and it's only been there because a lot of you guys think about it as being part of that creation and that inspiration also. So it's definitely on that time of higher so like you're saying, in the United States, African universities, right, they make up 3% of all the schools in the United States. So out of that 3%, I believe Black African professionals make up 65 of these, which graduated from that 3%. So that's that's where I feel that transition of our people is in that percentage. We're not making it it's broken. So besides fighting on that, part of the movement, I think is sheds and this declaration poster that we created. This is kind of like the steps. You can compare it to this. This is creating the future leaders. ready to move, but we just don't have the support. But it's on the grassroots. Because as everybody's fighting here, we're building the next year's leadership. So we created a student-based charter council. We teach governance, teach leadership. We're chosen by their peers. And here we have 6 categories that students and as well as other indigenous places from Australia, Aotearoa, we have here, North America, Europe, have come together to create a fund. So it is that quality of education, that right consistency that we do have a basis to stand and have the right to present. So definitely inspired on that base because I think it's true power education, it's sovereignty, and anything else that will come from this educate
Oh, you want me to go? Yes, sir. Yeah, wow, work. I mean, listening to you about organizing, kind of different on an island than a continent, learning continent issues and how you deal on an island. Sometimes, you know, in organizing, and we should know that there's only certain windows of opportunity. And if you're not there at that time, organizing is too late. That's how we learn. So sometimes it ain't really organizing, it's being at the right place at the right time, initiating the right move. So all of a sudden you have a group building defense fund. Yeah, we had lots of members, but you only had a few people making consensus on what it is. Okay? So you have to file, like we did with our prison suit, with our fence suit, with a lot of suits. You only got 30 days to submit your argument, legal argument, or forever shut your mouth. And that's how it is. So sometimes in organizing, you don't have this time because the window is not allowing you the time. You got to move in that time and hope for the best of it. What you're scared is not to create bad law, right? You would make your mouth open, they look at the suit, they kick you out, now what? They're going to look at every Hawaiian raising it the same way? Or they're going to use it against the next Hawaiian? So you take chances, but you've got to shoot for that opportunity or you'll lose it. So in organizing sometimes, yeah, it's great to mobilize a lot of people, but on an island sometimes, you ain't got the time. You just got to be there, and legally, you have a right to be there. So they're stuck with you, being at that opportunity, at that window, and all you have to do is, sad as it sounds, be an organization. Being an organization means president, vice president, secretary. That's it. The rest is your computer and your strategy, because that's all it takes to be a legit 501c3 or be another group. You just have to have these titles. Everybody has it. So if you're smart enough just to get that, which gives you legal standing, and you go into this window of opportunity, that's what happens. So I just wanted to add that, yes, we gotta organize, but at times, you don't have a chance. And if you do organize, it will be too late to address that issue. And the system is always on calendar dates all the time. They set up for this, they set up for that. You're not here, you have a chance to be there. You gotta file this, you gotta file that. And the problem that I've learned as an activist is that a lot of Hawaiian organizations don't know the process. Okay? They don't know the process. They don't know the timing and the window for that, and they miss those opportunities. Then when you do, it compounds the problem because you're going to come back with that so-called problem expanded, move forward, and you still got to fight it more bigger and a bigger issue at that time. So it's really important to understand the process at the very beginning stages of it, if you want to start to nip it. If not, it gets out of hand. Now you got to start looking at a bigger group of people, more people to fight, because you missed that so-called process where you really didn't need the people. You were standing for the simple laws that were there. You just had to use it at the proper time to make your voice. So that's what we're up against sometimes. It's not the chance to organize, although that's important, finding common ground with everybody on the issue. But for Hawaiians, it's just windows of opportunity, and you're out. Now we're back to general public running. Okay? Now I'm not part of general public. I'm the minority in general public. So my voice comes lesser if I'm going to wait for general public input. I got to do it with my own at a proper time. And you got to know that time, and you got to know how to make that move. We don't teach that. We don't learn that. We're not taught in school the process, what room we go to, along the hallway, to stop shit, to get involved in permitting, to change government policies. Because government and policies are all rulemaking. Statutes is what you live by. That's the law. That's a statute. Rules and policies, that's every department make that up, how to take care and manage their own thing. Well, the problem we have as Hawaiians is that I'm running into rules. Oh, you're not saying you can't take this fish, you can't get that fish, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. But the statute said you're supposed to uphold traditional practice. Okay? So traditional practice means I eat this, and I eat that, and I eat this, and I eat that. Now you say the rules say you cannot, according to our package, rule packaging. So there's this big argument about departments making rules and not looking at statutes that are already in the state constitution. So you've got the attorney generals working for the Department of DLMR, hunting and fishing and all that. But they don't look at the statute, they just look at the rulemaking, because that's what they're hired to do and watch that you don't break rules. So we always end up in court challenging rules that are not abiding by statutes. Do we learn that? No. Do they teach us in school? No. Do we learn that Hawaiian studies at the university? No. You gotta go out, get your ass kicked, go through the processes, go through the ringer, go through all the frustration, then you're educated about what it takes to go down the road of this in this time. You think one pill would fix all that street for sovereignty? We all take a pill, we'll be free? You know that ain't gonna happen. There's not one pill to fix all. We gotta start fixing along the way to sovereignty, to kingdom, or else we'll be there someday with nothing. We'll be in an apartment, practicing the Hawaiian language, looking in the mirror. And that's about as far as Hawaiian you will be. And that's where we headed. The majority, to me, of our youth have been conditioned to go that way. And I can see the frustration. You make all this work, and you go and say, what leadership are these children going to look at? Okay? Every people look back and go, oh, we got Gandhi, we got Viva Zapata, we got Martin Luther King, we got all these so-called leaders that they can look up to that made a difference in their culture, their life, and that whole time period. Who do we have as Hawaiians that stands today? Damo. If you want to be a famous Hawaiian, snort lots of cocaine and 400 chicks. We'll fly jets for you when you die. Okay? That's what Damo got on the Waikiki. And I think to myself, that's my hero. Is that my hero? Please. I don't think so. But that's how we look at it. Nobody's really serious in looking at the situation you talk about. The racial problems we have in Hawaii is the biggest problem. And it's covered with so much glitter that when you come in on an airplane, you'll never hear it. You'll hear all these Hawaiian phrases about aloha and mahalos, and aloha and mahalos, on everything. You know? Welcome and thank you. Welcome and thank you. But there's nothing talking about the real issues, our real situations, the social life of Hawaiians, the most locked up in prison, the most in boys' school, the fastest race to die from hereditary diseases, heart disease, stress factors, PTSD from the overthrow. Nobody talks or sits down and writes. You don't have a Sigmund Freud to write about plantation living, about all these people living in different camps. We all have to grow up that way. Sigmund Freud never show up. But we got to live by his standards that came out of Pasadena. Okay? Not about Hawaii and what's happening. Then we stuck with Oahu-centric mentality. The people that sit in Oahu, not connected to land anymore, don't use traditions that's still hanging on to Hawaiian families, that's still carrying what they're supposed to do, and saying that I cannot break the link I'm part of. But Oahu doesn't understand links. They're just like, as I always say, you know, when you look at the history, black history, you have the black who worked for the white man in his house. He was a Negro. And if you came in that house, he'd kick your ass or he'd kill you for his master. But then right across the field, you had the other black guy who worked in a cotton field. He wasn't a Negro, he was a Nigga. They got these two different races of the same race, but classified already. Now I look at that and go, wow, is that the Oahu-centric Hawaiians that hang around the kingdom? We never voted for these people, but they appointed themselves. Now we got kingdom. So we got most of the population of Hawaiians living on Oahu around the whole kingdom that believes in it so much. I'm out here in the country in Kau, and they'll come and tell me, excuse me, Hawaiian, the king on your land. What king? King number 2, number 3, number 4. I don't know telephone, I came by canoe. Okay? We never voted for these people. We never asked these people to, but now they own my land, they invested in my future, and now we got this Oahu-centric Hawaiian mentality saying, we need kingdom. Okay, we can sit in an apartment with a kingdom ID card and got no connection to our resources, our traditions, our EV, our bones, our responsibility of what's in our DNA from way back. We're not responsible anymore. If there was an extra Hawaii with Hawaiians living on it, then I could buy your bullshit. But if you can't replace me, and there ain't no replacement, then that's a whole different picture. On the race, in the world of races, I think I'm a threatened species. Not an endangered, a threatened. In other words, no more anymore. And while you slowly de-ID me, take away my identification through genocide, and you will win and I'll lose. So, yeah, it's real serious. And Ireland has got to move faster than continents. Continents may be able to have the room to fix. We don't get fixed. You take out our forest on the ecosystem of this island, it's done, it's killed. America, you can get on forestry, go plant your regular trees again. Over here, you take shit, gone. The ecosystem changed. This island has every ecosystem in the world except Antarctica. But every time it goes out on forest and subdivision, one result, we altered the whole climate. And now you've thrown things off balance. That's why way before I had abundance, the thing didn't even match the Hawaiian name of that area. The area was named for that stuff. No more anymore. So the whole thing's changing. And we Hawaiians are not taught to focus on all of those little things that make us who we are. Not big things, it's little things. That's who we are. Because it's island kind of mentality, not continent. So little things is what we use as formulas in our life, in our traditions, our culture. So that's how we think. When big continents attack, we don't know how to deal with it. Because our system is more or less sold out. Our education department is sold out. I go into the University of Hawaii today, and they teach all about yesterday. All about what we did yesterday. Not about what we take in the future. What are we going to be in the future, Hawaiian studies? Don't tell me about the Loi. I know all about that. In fact, we don't even know the water or the Loi anymore. Get out of that already. What do we take with us? What do our kids have in the future that they take that's important?
Do they take an iron root or they just take a low root program? What do you take as your idea of yourself? And I think the university never goes there. They don't teach that. And it shortchange our kids, and it shortchange ourselves, that that's it. Those people over there get ceiling already. You know, and I think that's the Peter principle. You hit the top of what you know, and then that's it for your kid. Wow, you know there's 10 cents more? I didn't know that. Well, she won't be shocked my child. So we're stuck with the mentality of all that they know at the University of Hawaii on Hawaiian Studies. That's shallow because they're all Hawaiian-centric and don't understand traditional beliefs. And traditional beliefs mean you need the environment. The environment complements your spirituality because you are part of the forest, the ocean, and all of that. You lose that, then you lose yourself. So, sorry I keep talking.
My name is Rocky Getz. By trade, by skill, I taught myself. I'm self-taught as an artist. Self-taught. Why? Because there are no programs to educate us all. The existing education program that we have is not for Hawaii. Because you see, because in the end, after your 4-year completion of a Hawaii educational system, you come out and you talk to me like one Hawaii. You're not talking to me like one Hawaii. So then, who has the better advantage? Who has the opportunity? The guy that comes from the Hawaii educated world, like you said. I come from a native world, a Maori world. It said, "Mai kapu mai o ya do." Truth is before time. So all of our histories, we're not learning because the educational system is confused. Our teachers who have now acquired a degree as an academia are confused because you see they learn the Hawaii performance of how to acquire knowledge. And you say, in order to proceed in a forward movement, you must have knowledge. Einstein said, arrogance, ignorance breeds arrogance, Einstein said. Now, we know that if you don't acquire that knowledge that concerns you as that indigenous people, you're going to turn tail on either way you look at this issue. If you're an American, you're going to sit on the American side of the table. If you're a Mexican, you're going to sit on the Mexican side of the table. If you're a barrio, you're going to sit on the barrio side of the table because they have it rough. These are the guys that require a assimilated system. Hawaii, no different. Hawaii, no different. That's why we say down low, Dukanomoku. All these guys became tokens for us. I never tell you stand there, put on the lei, and then make the assassin a spear. I never tell you do that. I never tell my folks to make a gang, so I'm here, and I gotta put up with this kind of bullshit in the world. I gotta listen to everybody in the world tell me how I feel. But I come home and I cannot fit here. Why? But I'm an artist, he don't know nothing. But I just know how to carve, he don't know, he don't fit nowhere. I don't fit in the system, I don't fit in homestead, I don't fit in medical. Well, I don't fit. When did they shoot me? They shoot horses there? Horses still ain't shoot them. That's where I'm at. I'm 70 years old. I'm going to be 71 next month. What have they done for me? That's my question. Knowledge, you say? They all have the opportunity. Now you get technology. Push button. Funny, you guys don't get your knowledge, your ike, your knowledge out of your mouth. You guys still doing fairy tales and superstition because most of the Hawaiians became Christians. We don't can do religion, brother, they call imagery, tiki. His job is, we don't know what, brother. That's the devil, man. That's un-Christian. But it is Maori. You're not Maori, so you will tell me how am I going to live in my country? Why don't you just shoot me? I don't mind dying. Today is a day to live. and there's also a day to die. Because that's how we believe. We're part of this environment. How many times I've been to hear that, you know what, the difference between you, Joe, from California, and me here, that are born, only are now biologically connected. I don't come from Europe, I don't come from China, I come from here, biologically related. You like take out my tongue, it's just like cutting off the leaves. It's like taking off one branch of the tree. That's why you got to pick up the leg, that's why you pick up the roots from the land. Where are we going? Tahiti. Where are we going? New Zealand. We had our country, nobody was here. The Hawaiians were able, the Maoris were able to consolidate what was nature's force, what gave to nature. No God, no nothing. Just by your own hands, brain, and feet. That's all they want. Dog, cat, no cat, dog, pig, chicken, all they have. Pig for ceremony, chicken, fish, everything else for consumption. Now today you bring everything, one container comes in here with everything. What we get? Zero. What happened? Thousands of ships come from all over the world in these islands. By the time Kamehameha was here, we fed them all. What come to us? They like us to dig sandalwood so the chiefs can get what better had. They gave one wagon, one horse, and one castle. So you got to tell me, Southern, where? You guys had it, you lost it. You could go tell me what? Chiefly, Alidi, you guys had the kings and him, whatever. You lost. Where was I, the farmer, the fisherman, trying to eke out a living? Because you took us off the land. We don't own them because you said you don't own them. They showed the tattoo system. 2,500 years they were told that philosophy, not religion, philosophy. They read book. 1819, Kamehameha died. Well, just like nothing worked. Okay, so then they asked themselves, well then what is sacred to the God? What God? You guys just burn them. Let's burn down the Catholic Church. Let's burn down the Protestant Church. Let's burn down the Muslim. Let's burn them. Let's see how you guys will function. Emotionally. That's where I am. I don't give a shit about this island. I don't give a shit about the kings, the people. I'm here because somebody keeping me here. I don't get to do what I like. I don't get what I stay because I'm not a lease. Regulatory. Regulator. I joined him. I told him I'm going to make the government see different. We joined his meeting so we get Manao so we can all share. That's why I told him, come, because you see, the other ones, they're happy. Guys on homestead, they live like Soweto, they're happy. They're happy. I'm not. My wife is not. My kids are not. Because I don't like staying here. What am I? Makaku, a creative guy that makes this kind of stuff. But where's his place? I make drawings so you guys can all wind up. Stop about me, go ahead. You guys compensate the artists that gave you the idea to be rebellious? No, you guys forgot who did that design. You guys got all caught up in the chaos. The other sees this. What? He creates to tell lies so he can reveal the truth. You guys don't see that. You guys just think he's just entertaining. I live my culture. It's hard. As a Hasidic Jew, how hard it is to live in this world. As a Maori, how he will live in this world. You no more his resource. You no more his man. Where he going? I don't mind going to welfare. Give me one paycheck like the Indians get. Like the Alaskans get. My friends in Puyallup, they give a $5,000 check every month. My grandson gave a $5,000 check from the Inupiaq. What we get? Ahuka ala ala. Ahuka ala ala, the back of the street. Puko. I grew up Puko, Molokai. Ask him where he stayed now. Destroyed Malae. I grew up there as a boy. Where can I go back to that kind memory, custom, tradition, rough. My mind is broke. My heart is numb. I don't want to go. That's what I tell people. I'm all out. You guys used it all up. You guys never put back into the bank. Now I collect interest, no more interest. You guys told us we gotta leave now. That's why we have to leave. I'm an artist. I don't push my agenda. I don't like to come to my house buy my art. I like to know how I'm gonna make it easier for my grandson, my daughter. She's not 20, she's not 50% Hawaiian. Where is she going? Rent. In her own country. ISIS putting out a new program, recruiting. ISIS. How smart are these guys? And we don't even get shit here. You gotta do evil stuff. That's all I do is go do stuff. I do monuments to our war heroes. I do things to commemorate and to kaulana their memories because that's who I am. I'm part of these guys. But in the end, what comes back to us? All the people in the community don't know what to do. Uncle, you do uncle. Just uncle. That's what I tell myself. I'm just uncle, grandpa. That's how bitter I am. Why am bitter? Because 70 years old, I never see nothing from this state. And yet I see all over the country, they do. You guys did. New York to California. Hello, we're going to fix your bed, we're going to polish your brass. Hello, Filipinos, they keep quiet. They get the job. You know, Mama, we have dissolved ourselves into a nation of wannabe. We like be like him. We like be Maui. We like be. Because there's no opportunity. Brothers say opportunity. When the blacks have, they have what? Initiatives, yeah? I don't want job, I don't want education. Give me one initiative. Oh, look, you get scholarship, go college. What do we get? We get a lot of leaders, you say, a lot of leaders in the UH in Honolulu. What they promote? Me, myself, and I. I'm 70. I'm not stupid. I may be old, but I'm not dumb. We can see, as an artist, I can see what this is. My grandson got these, Papa. Papa, come on. Now I gotta have my eye on him because I gotta make sure when I die, I'm not gonna die dead. There's something for him. I'm gonna work on myself. What can we have dead while I'm alive? Nothing. I've been fighting through my art to make them recognize what we've done. So we can own the museum, so we can declare ourselves sovereign to that collection. It's owned by white people. And it's run by talking Kanakas sitting on that board, telling us Kanakas, we cannot do that. Oh, really? How do you do that to me? I'm not Christian. I'm not. I'm not an atheist. I'm Maori. You guys talking about differences. Where's the Maori? The original human being. That's what it means. Original human being. I don't know what else to be. I don't can eat my fish, I don't can eat my plants. Everything is substituted because they told us assimilate. Shit on the shingles, man on doors. Whoa, nutritious. That's how we die. You can't, that's how you die with your health. Keep feeding us food we cannot like. I cannot eat bread, but boy, I love bread. Gluten, killing me. I like potato bread, cow bread, this thing. This kind of stuff, we're still catching up. We're still 20 years behind time. We're behind the Indians, we're behind the Maoris. We're behind everybody in the world because people here who run this outputting, this government, is slow. Look what water is, look what pipe bread. They still don't know the tool. Yet we've been telling them throughout culture. This is how. But historically, you guys did what you wanted, and you want to justify your mistakes, your flaws, your failure. But you turned that around into me looking in the glass telling me, you failed, Tanaka. You failed. Not me. Look what I brought you. The wheel. Oh! That's how I feel about Ruben. That's how I feel. And it's hard for me to find to make mambo jumbo on myself. Go ahead, that's it.
Well, I'm here because Brother Rocky asked me to come, but I've been here before. And I know Terry has been working a lot. And I'm just thinking, all morning I've just been thinking about my own personal journey. So I've been on a journey to be a sovereign person. And it started from when I was in high school. When my counselor said that, she asked me what I wanted to do. I said, well, I like education. I like learning about TV. Maybe be a TV person. I'm a musician, so she took up the music. I've been playing music since I was 12. Yeah, I continue to play music. And record and tour and things. But I told the counselor that, and she said, Steve, you really should focus. Maybe you should go Army, maybe you should go community college. I said, no, I'm going to college. I like to go college. And I'm going to try to do all these things. And so, for the last 45 years, I've been doing everything I wanted to do, including being here right today. So I did go to school, and I transferred around. I was in Washington State for a number of years, a long time actually. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Evergreen State College. I was at Evergreen State College for about 10 years. I transferred there. I got a job there before I even graduated. And I worked on community and social justice issues as a student and as a staff person and as a part-time faculty. So I did that. Even though people said that's not a good school, you should go to University of Washington. You should go to University of Puget Sound, which is where I started. But I ended up going to Evergreen because I read in the paper up there that they were going to shut the school down. Brand new school because it was too radical. So I said, okay, that place is radical. I should go over there because if they shut them down, I can always transfer back. But it ended up being a good opportunity for me. And I learned from and worked with a lot of Native people. My mentors were African American. I have no issues with dealing with folks from different cultural ethnic backgrounds who can show me things I can do. And I continue to do that. So the whole time I was working, I was playing music. In Seattle, Portland, just play music. Never stopped playing music. And then at some point I decided maybe I should stick with education. Do a little bit more than be a student counselor. And the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to do more work in the community, on the ground. We were doing it nowadays with universities and colleges. They do them, but they just go back and forth. They never go all the way. It's all academic, right? They don't go all the way. They internship, they take students, visit, they come back, they're comfortable. But I just wasn't in that space, I just thought, I just gotta get into this. And so from a 4-year college, I decided to go into the community college system. And as it turns out, Polly said, sometimes right place, right time, you gotta do it right. So I went to the right school to take a job as a multicultural services director. And within a year, they made me a dean. And which was shocking. It was shocking to me, it was shocking to my friends. I think the school was in shock because I was a very young person to be a dean. Yeah, I got hired at 30, by age 31 I was a dean. I was the only Hawaiian dean in the Northwest. I was the only, one of the youngest deans in the community college system in the country. At one point, I was the youngest dean in the country. And then I remember, so you start becoming popular. People put you in different places, keynote speak here, go here, go to this conference there. And I remember meeting some people from the UH system. And they had said, you're the only Hawaiian dean we know. I said, you're from UH, you gotta get some deans over there. They said, oh no, brother. Nobody is at that level. I said, how about like in Hawaiian studies? They said, in Hawaiian studies, they might get coordinators and directors. The most such thing is dean in Hawaiian studies. And that was an eye-opener for me. So I recognized at that point that in my own self-journey, in some ways, I'm a pioneer, but I'm not thinking about it like that. I'm just thinking about doing things on my own, independently. Again, doing everything that the council said maybe you shouldn't do. So, I was in education. I spent a lot of time working in media too. And my first internship when I was 19, 20 years old, was with the Forest Service. And again, right place, right time, right? I'm working with the Forest Service with digital equipment, not digital equipment, this is before digital, so it's videotape and this stuff. Nobody in the USDA Forest Service area I was in knew how to work any of that stuff. So when you see young people with new technology, like my daughter, she grabbed my phone, doing again stuff with my phone. I don't know what she did, right? So easy, right? So I'm in that same position as a young person, 20-year-old intern, working there, showing them, this is how you use this video, this is how you do this. Well, can you produce some documentaries for? Sure. Do this thing, take pictures, do all that kind of stuff for them. And then Mount St. Helens block. So who we going to send to Mount St. Helens? It takes Steve to send to Mount St. Helens. They know how to do these things. But then Hawaii, in the helicopter, Mount St. Helens, doing videos, doing documentaries. So I'm moving along, just doing my own thing. And then I start thinking after years of being in education and working with tribes in the area, because I am very comfortable working with the tribes in the Northwest, the Nisqually, Tulela, a very close relationship with Tulela tribe when I was at this, when I became a dean. We were trying to do things on the res and just observing how they process their issues and thinking about how we process our issues over here. So I'm away from them a long time, but I cover them all the time. And what I'm seeing is that just as Polly said and as you, Ruben, said, it's the colonization is so clear when you look at it that way. And we begin to buy into what we can or can't do because there's systems imposed on us. And I remember going to a couple of tribal council meetings, and these folks are going at it. They're going at it so badly. I was thinking, well, how do they ever get to the decision? But the bottom line is they get there. And they're okay with having the diversity of opinion to get there. They get there. And I went to Toledo tribe, because I'm very close to those folks, because we work closely together. They were a smaller tribe that were progressive, but also people kept questioning how they were doing their master planning with their land. They weren't really big into casinos, now they are, but they're just starting that. But they had a big vision of what they were doing, and so they had traditionalists telling them they cannot do certain things, because that's not against tradition. You had the educated ones that are coming back, young ones that tell you can't do it. You had all those folks sort of in the middle, trying to decide what's best. But they got through it, and they're one of the most successful tribes, in the country. And they're very, very culturally based. But they do it very well, financially, because they went through that process, and it seemed to me, from looking at the outside, that they were very comfortable in knowing that they were going to get to an end. Saying, okay, we don't do that, If somebody steps up, look different, come from a different area, we start kind of questioning them, we start looking at, what is your politics? Where are you from, Who you grew up, who you related to, when you were in school, you start looking at all those things instead of thinking, okay, you have knowledge, you have knowledge, you have all these things, and how we will get them together. It's okay. It's okay that everybody get different ideas, but how we going to get to the end goal. And when we moved back home after many years in India, everybody said, oh, you're probably just going to go to the university, or you're probably going to work for a government or something. I mean, I come up in different jobs. In fact, I did some work for the governor of the state of Washington too, did some appointed policy work for them too, when I was up there. So I have this resume, there's all kinds of things in it. But I wanted to work with the community, so I ran the homeless organization, you know. Ron might remember East Hawaii Coalition, right? So I was the director for 7 years. The organization was troubled when I got there. It eventually had to close, you know, for a lot of political reasons. I won't get into that, you know, nonprofit struggle, you know. But that was the most gratifying experience I had, because I was not just working with the poorest people. I was working with Hawaiians. The Hawaiians everywhere. My classmates was in the shelter. We were finding housing for people that I played football with. You know, it was very gratifying, very eye-opening, but I couldn't get closer to the issues and to the people than being with the poorest people. And I had friends at the university, and people would say, how come you don't work with us? Or how come you're not joining my organization? Or you're depriving people of your knowledge by not joining this organization over there. How come you don't talk about sovereignty when you're out there? I said, well, I always strive to be a sovereign person. And I'm working with the people right now. What you do? You're working with those people. I hear you talk bad about that person over there, this drug addict over there, you know? So I said, well, we're working with them. We're in there, you know? And through all of this, I continue to play music. So I'm first and foremost a musician. I rock, you know, we're artists, is how we connect, you know? We're artists first and foremost. And then all this other stuff I've done is all in addition to. So as you go deep, you go community, and then I start thinking, I really have not been very good about participating in government, you know? So I cannot grumble because I don't participate. So I decided to get involved in some politics, some elections, some campaigns. So I got the campaign for prosecutor, ran on the dog, and he's the prosecutor at the big area right now. Then we said, you know, we'll take that network and we'll find somebody else. If we're not happy with what's going on, and then we go run somebody else. And that was Governor Ige. You know, as I said earlier, we're gonna need help. We're gonna try help. But we ran that campaign, and both campaigns we ran on grassroots in a way that true grassroots people recognize, but people who talk grassroots didn't recognize. That's why we won both of them. So I'm now participating in that process. And what I see is that we collectively, the community, we the Hawaiian community, we just gotta recognize when there are people who can understand systems and processes, like Polly, or myself, you know, or there's many others in the community, you know, that we accept the knowledge, but also accept that we need translators. All the time we need translators. If we were gonna have people to translate, nobody will understand anything, right? You'll be hitting your head against the wall every single time. You're gonna miss every deadline. You're gonna get angrier and angrier all the time. And so when I look at my own life, 40 plus years doing work in the mainland over here, that's where I see my own common threads is that to be a person who understands many things, because I have been able to do many things, and then be able to translate to people. Because I don't judge. You know, I'm not a terribly Christian or spiritual person. Or we go to church every Sunday, or we pray every meal, but I don't see myself like that. It's just, I just try to not judge. Try to not judge, try to forgive all the time. And then always try to look for positive all the time. Because we have so much anger in us that we just got to figure out ways to forgive, accept, trust, and kind of move forward. So that's where I am right now. I'm always all about moving forward and trying to be in different places. And people say, hey, what are you doing over here? I don't know, somebody invite me, I come, you know. I can invite me, I come. You know? And it's interesting how things will circle. But I don't even remember the documentary they did on the Pele Defense Fund for the San Francisco people. Yeah. Well, I knew some of those people. So I mean, I did the mainland, watching that documentary on it was on public television, right? And so, as you know, one of the guys I played music with for over 20 years is Brother Nolan. So me and Brother Nolan, we see watching that thing, we see you guys, we see the Pelicanis, you know, we watching Skippy, you know, on there, we sad and we're happy and we're laughing and And we, just studying that day, Emily was in there too, right? Yeah, all you guys was in there. Millie was all in there. And then from that point, that was a turning point for me in my thinking, because I was doing civil rights stuff with the African American community, primarily in the Native community. At that point, watching that documentary, I switched. I said, okay, sometime I'm going to have to go back home. And at some point, we're going to connect. So to see you, I know Millie them, I mean, it's just very interesting to be at this point, to come that circle and to be sitting here at Papua New Guinea together. And so, after guys listen to me and tell me, oh, what you FBI one, you law enforcement. I said, why? Because my hair shot. I said, because you look like old time. I said, no, I just me. I'm all I know. I'm just me. That's what I do. I'm just me.
I live in a Hawaiian hometown, Kyoka. I grew up with two types of value systems. One was Christian and the other was tradition. And so as a young girl, I paid attention. I liked listening to my grandparents who taught me the traditions. Although it was not mentioned, it was done quietly. Whenever they taught me stories or family secrets, it was always done without the rest of my family knowing. So it kind of bothered me because I wasn't sure if it was right to discuss it, or should I whisper as I'm discussing it with my grandparents? Then I knew that there was a difference between that value system. And as life went through, I realized that Hawaii people were very special people, but there were also people that were treated differently from the general public. And it bothered me. And so in my head, always believed that I needed to do something to help. And I first started with the health. I knew that our people were unhealthy because I was told we were unhealthy. And amongst my own family, it was cancer, diabetes. So I started with the health issues. I exercised and got grants to learn how my community to be healthy. And then I thought what came with healthy was also our psychological, emotional cycle. And I thought, well, maybe it's because we don't have money. So maybe I should go to school and create a space where we can have, I can create a space for our people to have money, and maybe that will make them happier people. So I thought about how I was going to do that. And I thought, well, I don't think I want to be political. My grandmother was a very political, staunch person. I remember her testifying, and I didn't want to be there. I didn't actually want to go listen to her sometimes because she could get loud, but she was a very powerful woman, as an activist. But then I realized that, maybe I should go and do something more nice, not heavy, not very political. And so I did the arts because that was something I did. I thought, well, you can freely, speak about something, create it, and there's no wrong or right to it. But I saw that as something that could enhance their self-esteem by featuring an exclusive main Hawaiian art gallery. Because I believe that the arts was somehow a way of identifying our culture. And so I decided to do an exclusive art gallery. I think, and that was in Hilo, never done before, so it kind of excited a lot of people. It drew a lot of attention. But it also drew a lot of attention to all kinds of spiritual people, political people. When I'm sitting in the gallery, you get all kinds of people. And it affected them a certain way. And, all kinds of ways. But then I realized that I'm doing something like I'm selling, Hawaiian artwork. I didn't tell the Hawaiians what to do. It just came out. As they created something Hawaiian, or what they thought was inside of it. So they created that. So majority of the artwork that was done with that theme. Well, that drew attention. Okay, how can you go sell that if that's an indigenous piece of wood? And then I had to think about that. Am I doing the right thing? Am I selling something that shouldn't be cut down? Maybe I should go do my research. It bothered me then. I'm selling something, am I exploiting it? And then somebody walked in my gallery, and that was funny. And I remember watching his videos. I remember, all the issues that he stood for. And I watched his videos. I actually watched the one that really impressed me was when he was talking to Save Our Iwi. He was testifying somewhere, and he was telling them that they should, burial council, take off the landowners and the developers, the two that were sitting in the burial council. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, wasn't he the one that started the burial council? Why is he there now telling them that they got to take these guys off? Doesn't he have the power to go and tell them what to do? Because he created that. The fighting for our homes in Maui, which created that council. I knew that. So I thought, gosh, and I watched it over and over and over again. It resonated to me. So when he walked in the gallery, I thought, I know this guy. I'm going to ask him if he can teach me. And I did just that. Because I said, my name is Terry, you don't know who I am, but can you teach me? And boy, I tell you, that catapulted me to a different level of wow. People that were around me that were artists, they went, wait a minute, what are you doing? I mean, they actually thought I was doing something really wrong. Taking that complacent, nice area, and I'm taking a step in the political realm. I didn't see any difference. It was still preserving and protecting what we had left as a people. And it bothered me again that I was being left alone by the people that I was servicing because they couldn't hang around Terry anymore because Terry was an activist. And boy, that was amazing. I don't regret any part of it. I learned from the best, and I'm honored actually sitting on this table because the best of the best is sitting here. What our new generation can learn. Because I learned it. I was taken actually by the hand and thrown in the fire. Go testify. You got 3 minutes. 3 minutes to make a difference. And I thought, but you're going to teach me how. How am I going to do that? 3 minutes to make a difference because that's all they give me. And I had that experience. Something happened where I had to go to the legislature. We were fighting that bill. We wanted to create a bill so that we could take off the landowners and the developer from the burial council. And my friend from Oahu says, Terry, this hearing is today, and I was brand new in all of this, totally brand new. And I said, wait a minute, we just came from there. Well, it's today. It's tomorrow at 9 o'clock. What? So I said, I gotta call Polly. He's gotta go. I tried calling Polly and I couldn't find him, at all. I thought, gosh, in my heart, I can't do this. I can't let this just go. So I flew over by myself with another person to go and testify. I that was the first time I ever testified. I'm in front of legislation and I'm like, what do I say? You know, and then I remember the video that I watched publicly and the one that I watched over and over and over again. And I actually testified verbatim what he said. You know, at this testimony. When I came back home, the first thing he said was, "Did you get taped?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, let me see it." And, you know, I didn't get, oh, good job, Terry. A little bit too emotional, you know, too much emotion. You know, so when you learn from the best of the best, you understand the frustration. You understand the years and years of work activists go through. And I'm going to be emotional right now. I would never do that. I'm a different person. I'll never be able to turn back looking at things the same way. And I try to shut it off. Can't do that. So, I know that there's got to be a bridge, the renaissance of our new generation. And that's what I want to do. That bridge. I can bring back priceless that have been never taught in education. What I got taught. And that's how I will spend the rest of my life.
Well, as you can see, a lot of, you know, that's the beauty of sometimes we know each other, but we don't know the gravity of what we carry and what we bring to the table as collective knowledge and analysis and difference of looking at it so that it gives us all of the views. And I think how we bring that into convergence, how we then open it up for broader participation and invitation, then becomes super important. Because one, it brings the power of the collective thinking together. It brings in the passion and the dedication that it takes to make this happen. And more importantly, the imagination to make something real that doesn't exist. And everybody will tell you that that's not going to happen, and yet it happens every time. Even in Selma, when I just went, it was supposed to be just to commemorate the Civil Rights Movement and the Voting Rights Act. But we've gone backwards in terms of the voting rights and our rights, so we did a backward march. You know, before the march started, we did a backward march, so sometimes we got to go back to pick up the people that were left behind in order to move collectively together, sort of forward. And I think those are important lessons that we all bring to the table. And so how we collectivize them and write them down. Because guess what? We don't write them down, the university writes them down. And they get it all wrong every time. So how do we document our stuff? How do we make it real? Because when the young people then go to the library and look at the archives, all they pull up is the academic Western thinking kind of stuff. And so we need to create our own archive, whether it be about all the historical injustices and traumatic violence that we've suffered, that's important to document. And to show that it's not just something that we invent, because we're not content with whatever. It's not about that. I think it's really how we engage the youth. And my granddaughter is 10 years old and she can do the thing on the cell phone. And I have to ask her, how do you do an iMovie? And she knows how to do that. But the beauty of it is when she wrote this little piece, and I get emotional because she wrote about like where, she's talking about dogs being robotic, but she's really talking about humans, about animals, and how the system being controls the one that are all, like, nobody's all human anymore or all animal. So the most is 80% animal, and then there's some that are less than half. So the less than half don't count, because they're less than half, animal. And she puts it about that social control, and I was like, what? Where did you read this? But that's how we don't sometimes think how we, where we inherit our commitment to the struggle. And it's because somewhere in our family, in our connection, we may not be aware of it, but it was there. And we're picking it up generations later. And so that's the regenerative part of our cultural struggle, is that political education is not separate than organizing. Organizing is not separate from culture. Culture is not separate from our ancestral roots. And so we can't rescue that, then we really are as ignorant as the colonial system is. And so this military kind of thinking and logic that we all have to be the same in order to survive or progress. And that's not the case. We're proving it over and over and over again. So, my reason for coming, is like from my personal, family and people, community, and commitment, but really to also embrace the community here. And the reason that Terry and Pablo invited me, Terry, insisting that I get here, and then finally making it happen. It might have looked mechanical. Oh, you're going to go to Hawaii all the time? No, I'm going to go connect with the folks, to bring back that shared knowledge. So I really thank you for everybody opening up around the circle and sharing what is most profound to every one of us. And so that's really the power of convergence, is that we're really willing to share without being, well, I shouldn't say that because I'm going to get criticized or something like that. We're truthful. We're spontaneous. We're not perfect. We bring contradictions with us. But we are who we are, and we are who we need to be around the table. And we have the wisdom that it takes to bring it together, and we have the capacity to do it. We have the will to do it. That's the main question.
How did you guys create? How did you start?
Well,
money?
I think part of it is, as we went around the table, people learned more about each other and what brought them to the table and how different all the stories were. So instead of getting encapsulated into issues, we started sharing the stories of struggle, of family, of disconnection, of connection, of all the things that make it up. And some people might say, well, I don't know what colonialism is. I've never heard about it. The first time I hear about it. Some people might laugh and say, how come you never heard about it? That would put that person to shame, So it makes them think that I shouldn't share nothing that might be ridiculed, because they will ridicule, but that's not good. It creates insecurity. So the trust that we create is that I can say this truthfully, and you know that I'm being truthful. I heard everybody around the table, and I know that you're being totally truthful. I'm passionate about that truth. So isn't that valuable knowledge and shared knowledge and important to uplift and document? And that's my real challenge to all of us, is how do we do that? Given that we do many things, given that the schedules are full, given that we have certain capacity, but all of us can do something. Even planting a plant of tomato, you're already breaking down the globalized system that controls the tomatoes. Maybe a little example, but they become important examples of tearing down what holds us in that colonial construct of thinking. And believe it, there's enough human trauma and violence that reminds our people what happens to people that get active, that become leaders and organizers to make changes, that you suffer a lot. When you get attacked, you get repressed, you go to jail, you go to prison is not a make-believe story, it's real. And so in the back of the psyche, sometimes our own communities don't get involved because they know that history, even though they put it sort of place. They put it in subversion. Kind of like what you were saying, they talk quietly when they're going to talk about that. And they would tell the children, get out of the room, so that the adults could talk to them, talk the shit about what was going on. And really they didn't want us to hear, but then we lost part of that history. But then it was sort of underground kind of organizing back in the day. People would go to prison. Your family would lose everything. So anyway, thank you very much for everybody for sharing. I think that's what we do best, and how we deal with bringing people together in emergencies. We go around the table. So what, we say, what is colonialism? We do the whole round. What is liberation? We do the whole round. What is racism? We go around. And we document, we take notes of all this discussion so that we can accumulate our own knowledge and build it up, rather than just a linear application of that knowledge. And that becomes important sort of source of our treasure, our treasure of knowledge. Our hidden treasures that we can polish up and out of the museums where they have it encapsulated. So, man, I'm very happy to be here, and I hope that this sort of thing, kind of like I brought something, maybe some fresh air into the same thinking that you've been thinking forever. And I hope I did that, and I accomplished already a significant part.
I did make one comment when she asked me about being activist. I said, well, if you want to be lonely and lose your friends, then that's what's going to happen when you become activist. I guess that's exactly what happened. You get a lot of acquaintances, but you only have a handful of friends in the whole activist world. I don't know why people not embracing sincerity, passion, but they judge, make judgment, and they don't judge those elements and make a judgment, and make it from a real surface and foreign conditioning perspective. That's the problem. You're supposed to have more friends and not be lonely, but it's the opposite way as an activist. It's funny. That's how it is. That's why I think kind of like hanging around people that you know, like that's your relationship. They're not acquaintances.
It's called cognitive dissonance. People have a preset thought process about what is normal and what is good. And anytime you challenge that, even if your cause or purpose is more good or more just, they will still react to it because you're challenging their construct, their mental construct of what the world is and how it works. And so that's the trick, is how to break through that cognitive dissonance so that they realize we're not attacking them. We're just, and this is something that I know it's a white thing, and definitely an Iowa thing. We love to debate. I specifically search out people that don't share my point of view. I have little tolerance for preaching to the choir. I figure you're with me, so we're good. I'm much more interested in talking to the other side and seeing where they're at and how we can come together on this one point of consensus and move that one point forward. And you can still think what you think about that thing. You're not going to change my mind about that yet. But on this thing, and also, I very much like what Terry, Steve, and Rocky said about art and music. Besides young people missing from activism right now, we are missing art in a huge way. We have no music. It used to be the battle cry, right? Rock and roll was all about pushing back. And it reminds me of when we were up at Pohakaloa, testifying. We were protesting at the military base at Pohakaloa, and we got counter-protested. And the American Eagle or what are they, the Flying Eagles, the motorcycle club, came up and they were blasting music at us to annoy us. And what did they play? I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Which just proves to me that they don't really understand what this song is about. And they thought they were being snide and we're never satisfied, blah, blah, blah. I would challenge them to look into the lyrics of that song and figure out why it is what it is. But we are missing art and music. It's very hard for me to put together a poster to say we're going to march on this day about this thing because my skills are limited to putting words on a picture. I don't do Photoshop. I'm not a graphic artist at all. So that I think is something that we need to get into more, and then maybe we'll be able to break down that cognitive dissonance a little bit if we have a cool picture.
There's a video that I watched that was done during the Renaissance. Well, I thought it was Renaissance, but it was a Pacific Waves
Sound waves.
sound waves. And
All music.
it was all music.
In the background matching the music. It was all protest music. And it was old, but it was still saying the same message to me. You saw it. I did a thing with Brother Roden. We did a thing.
They told me about it, very good. So I still don't have the weeks, never get access to sit down. Yeah, yeah.
We did a meeting where everybody was talking about getting our life. Or different perspectives. And we had a
Yeah, we told me about that. And then we were talking about the documentary. We told me, oh, I did something like this. But then we said, oh, remember we was watching the documentary and the broadcast that he happened to be in town on tour. So we were put together. Because I was working with him even when I was in England. But that's smart. Why it was called documentary.
You know, back then we did the first protest in Geothermal. We made so much of an impact because it was on the Time magazine, it was all over Europe, it was all over the public media campaign. So we ended up on Tom Brokaw News. And he finished the news shot with our issue. And then it just showed then they going into the ocean and talking about geothermal and who's really speaking now. And Tom Brokaw was, it was so right on. It was leaning on outside about it. And the whole television show, the news section ended with us in geothermal. They came all up to Honolulu. I was fishing that day, they filmed me fishing. We're all eating the fish. And that was all on video with Tom Brokaw on NBC. I think that's archived someplace. Got it.
So can we start in person?
No reason why not to.
Okay, we should not.
No waters, no walls.
Well, you know, the important thing, huh? You know, the beauty of it is that we begin to also archive a lot of that footage that the doctors use